Today we have our Superior General with us today. We're so happy, Greg, that you're here. I know on your busy schedule you're taking this moment to share with us. And more anything else, Greg, what we try to do is to share with our seminarians, whether it be for the sisters or the fathers, what is your vocation story?
Okay. Well, first of all, I'm happy to be invited to share my story. And to encourage other young people to be part of this Vincentian family, which I think is a wonderful thing. I would base my story on two factors: the faith of my parents, and a great uncle of mine who was a Vincentian priest.
Oh.
Yeah, who happened to be very influential in my life. He spent his vacations with us, and he was a missionary in Panama, and subdirector of the Daughters of Charity. And when I was old enough to drive, I drove him down to Baltimore City, to the parish where he used to be pastor, and would visit the parishioners of the black parish. And I remember one time in particular, because after having heard all these stories from him from Panama and from traveling with him into Emmitsburg to meet the Daughters of Charity, and then going to the inner city of Baltimore, I remember this one particular time we went. He was going to visit an old black woman who was not well. So we arrived at her house in this section of Baltimore. Half of the buildings were burnt out. I said, well, I'm going to park the car, and then you go up to the door. And as I'm walking towards them, I see the lady open the door, and she was so happy to see my uncle, and she started to cry, and she hugged him. And when I got up to the steps and I'm walking up, I see my uncle's crying as well. And I said at that time, I said, geez, how I would love to be able to love like that. And then on the way home that day, I said, what's it like being a priest? And he didn't say a whole lot that I remember anyway. But next thing I know, a week or 2 weeks later, I got a letter from the vocation director, from Father Frank Quinn, and inviting me to participate in a workshop. And I participated in these workshops for 3-4 years as I was going through high school. And then at the end of my high school, I entered the Vincentian residence in Niagara Falls. And that's history. That's my story. Probably when I speak about the other part of it, the faith piece from both my parents, one of the things I find most that I remember from my memory is every Lent, my mom was faithful to go into church every evening. And she would always ask the ones of us who were old enough to go, anybody coming to church with me tonight? And I decided one year I'm gonna go with her every night. And there was something about the readings during Lent and the invitation to conversion and the call of the Lord, that and in the context of the Eucharist and the way that it was celebrated by our home pastor, made me really begin to think about the possibility of a vocation. So that combined with the relationship I had with my great uncle and his storytelling and passing the history of the congregation on to me, it's what made me be what I am today.
Superior General. A Vincentian priest.
Yeah, Vincentian priest. I didn't expect to become the Superior General.
Well, you said what I became today. I had the pleasure of going to Panama to your old stomping grounds
Yeah, I heard.
a month or two ago. And I think that really says a lot about your spirit, your nearness to the people. You're very close. People appreciate that, and we see that and get that image from you where we encounter your person, but also where we see reports and your travels around the world. Can you tell us at this moment, what are you doing? What is the focus of your...
When I read when Father Maloney asked me in 2004, after hearing the results of the election, would I accept to be the Superior General? Well, obviously I was blown away. I said, I love the congregation of the mission, and if this is the will of the congregation being expressed here, I said, I accept. I don't feel I'm the person worthy of it. But then I took seriously reading the constitutions about what the role of the Superior General is, and it says there, it doesn't go into depth, but it says to be the spiritual animator of the Vincentian family. And everybody has their different ways, I guess, that they can be an animator, a spiritual animator. Father Maloney was excellent in terms of his writing. I don't consider myself to be a writer, but I do consider myself to be a missionary, and one of the ways that I always felt energized was as a missionary in Panama, or even later as visitor in Guatemala, was just going out and being with the confreres and the people with whom they serve. So I got lots of energy back from that, and I also felt that was a way that I can encourage them to do their work. So what I've been doing for these last, on my 8th year as Superior General, is precisely visiting the Vincentian family throughout the world, whether daughters, confreres, the priests and brothers, or the lay members of the Vincentian family, just trying to encourage and animate in and through these visits. And I mentioned even not in a few days ago, in a number of different occasions, to people that it's a privilege for me. I know people appreciate the opportunity to be visited by the Superior General, especially I like to go to places that are out on the margins that very few people have visited. And I hear every now and then, this is the first time the Superior General has ever come here to visit us. And the way it lifts people up, and meeting the people whom the daughters of the confreres serve at the same time, it's a spiritual uplift for them. But by far, for me, it's much more animating, because I see the love and that's alive of the charism, and the way that the different members of the Vincentian family serve the poor. I shared with some people this evening in a meeting. I remember probably one of the most profound, moving experiences I ever had was visiting Israel, and a project that the Daughters of Charity have. It's a home for severely deformed children who are not well received by their families when they're in that condition, so they're basically abandoned. And when I went there, the daughter said, "Father, would you like to meet one of the most precious creatures God has ever made in this world?" And I said, "Yeah." So she takes me to one of the wards, and we go to this bed where it obviously was a human person, but it was hard to tell because the face was so terribly deformed in the body. And Sister just takes this young girl into her arms. She hugs her, kisses her, and she presents her to me and says, "Have you ever seen a more beautiful creature?" To see the depth of love that sister had for this terribly deformed human being, and the response that person was able to give back to her with even the most difficult of attempts to smile. I said to myself, this is the charism alive and well. And those kind of experiences I have so many times, every time I visit anywhere in the world, encourage me, animates me, and gives me the opportunity even to share with other people these experiences, to encourage them. So, spiritual animator in every sense of the word, and going out to all the different people, especially those confreres or Daughters of Charity that work on the margins that hardly anybody ever comes to visit. So I try to make the effort to be there.
And you could feel a difference.
Mm-hmm.
Greg, for our young men information, or daughters information, what message would you like to leave with them and as they journey in their discernment or their formation period?
Okay, a number of things. I mean, I think that there are 3 key elements that you can read in any vocation book you ever want to read, but I think that they're right on. I said, to learn to develop a deep prayer life. You know, I mean, God has given us His love, and the most precious thing is to be able to give that back to Him and develop our prayer life with Him. Second is, and it's related to it, is the ability to live with others who have the same values, to give witness in community that people of different races, different languages, different colors of skin can actually live together and pray together with a common mission, which is the third aspect of the mission that we have, to serve the poor and evangelize. When you're in formation, they're the three things that you have to really try to deepen in your own life. Well, probably when we're younger, that relationship with God, we consider its importance, but we have lots of energy of our own, so we don't rely that much on God's energy within us. But as you get older, you begin to see how important it is to truly trust in the Lord, and that He's the one that empowers us to do what we do. And the less we present of ourselves, and the more we allow God to work through us, I think is what we have to try to achieve as we grow into adulthood. And that's what young people in the formation programs are doing. They're emerging into adults. So, and to do that together, seeing community as essential, as sharing your values with other people, and growing in intimacy with them in that desire to want to serve more deeply God, and serving and evangelizing the poor. So, and then above all, as you're in your time of formation, to learn well from your mentors the art of loving the poor. So that's my message.
Well, thank you, Greg. Gracias, Gregorio, for our Spanish formation people. We thank you for taking this time out from your busy schedule, and count on our prayers, and your example, that we all have to give ourselves to that mission and discover what our gifts are and put them out there and share them. So thank you for that.
In the phrase that we heard today, I think it's good to share this with everybody on camera, what Sister Sharon shared with us about, if you're happy, tell your face to show it.
Yes.
So if you're happy in what you do, and we're happy in what we do, just let your face know and show it. Amen.
Thank you.
Okay.